everybody, Foley here for the weekly news recap for the 28th of November to, 28th of October to the 3rd of November. Let's not lose a month. Anyway, so we'll start off with some updates this week. So no big showcases or features or anything like that this time. So we got a couple of trailers for some newly announced games. So first up is Animal Use Protocol. This is from The Brotherhood. The developer. We have played some of their games on the channel before. Stasis Bone Totem, that's by them. This is going to be a little bit different, but you can see they're still going for this kind of grungy, futuristic, kind of cyberpunky kind of thing. Not entirely sure what the game is about, but it's animal testing, more than likely. We see some newspaper articles there about some kind of disease, pandemic perhaps, and there's a bunch of corpses there with the hazardous waste symbols on them and what have you. So I'm guessing it's like animal testing to find a cure for some disease, and it wasn't quick enough and potentially lost a bunch of humanity along the way. It's a little different to their normal games. Stasis and Stasis Bone Totem were kind of point and click adventures in a way. I know they have another game called Beautiful Desolation or something like that, which I think has a bit more of a combat vibe to it. Anyway, Animal Use Protocol, I assume this is a gun we're holding, but again, they're not shown using it as a weapon, so who knows? Anyway, just being announced, there's no release date or anything like that. It's just, this is what we're working on, more or less, and I guess they now have something to show off. So it'll be a while before we hear anything more about that. Ritual Tides. This is from Vertpaint Studios, or Verpaint, because I think it's meant to be French green paint. Anyway, so these are former Rockstar developers, Traveler's Tales. I think it's formerly those guys as well. No gameplay in this trailer. It's more like a tone setting thing, but they're going for a Lovecraft, Call of Cthulhu type vibe. Horrible monsters, eldritch beings, unknowable cosmic horrors, that kind of stuff. And I think they're slating it for late next year. But again, no gameplay, so what kind of game exactly it's going to be, who knows? Did I see a year on this, or maybe I didn't? No. I didn't. It was not this one. The Ghost Town. So Ghost Town is from Fireproof Games. Fireproof, as it says there on the thing. They made The Room, which is a VR title. One of the better VR games. It's kind of a in-situ escape room. You don't really move very far. It was for earlier VR where they didn't really have full room setups and stuff. You kind of just did stuff on the spot. Whereas Ghost Town seems like, they're going to let you stretch your legs a little bit and walk around. But from what I can tell from the trailer, I think they're still going for an escape room, puzzle, sandbox kind of thing. Got a bit of the Phasmophobia vibes with them looking for hauntings around the neighborhood, that kind of thing. I don't know if it's going to lean so much into having to avoid ghosts and that kind of thing. I'd say they're going to stick to just the puzzling elements. That's what I'm getting from it anyway. I could be wrong, of course. Anyway, definitely saw a year in one of these trailers. Which one was it? I guess I didn't. So it's coming to pretty much every VR platform, which is pretty good. We're not having the Arkham Shadow business of it being a MetaQuest exclusive. I'm still kind of salty about that. Okay, then we have some release dates. So this is Enigma of Fear. This was in one of the most recent Next Fests, I think. Or maybe one of the indie showcases instead. So it's going to be released the end of November. It's kind of as you can see, like a pixel art detective thing. Where it's it's a female detective and your dog kind of sniffing out these cult activities in the area kind of thing. I just think it looks really interesting. I really like its art direction, because it's clearly going for pixel art, but the environments are a bit more than that. The environments are 3D polys, whereas the characters themselves are obviously still 3D assets, but they have a pixel art look to them, and the real, like, realistic shading on everything looks really interesting. Anyway, so 28th of November, and that is currently PC only. And then again, Nintendo continuing to not give people the news that they actually want to hear, which is what's happening with Switch 2. No, instead Xenoblade Chronicles X. Why not? So this is currently one of the few games left that's still stuck on the Wii U. And now it's no longer, because it is coming to Switch. So Xenoblade Chronicles X is kind of set between the original Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. But I think it's a completely standalone thing, and I think it's... Sorry, it came out between the two games, but I think it's set before the first game. Before the... well, I won't get into spoiler things for the game stories themselves, but it's quite a... fairly early in the game's universe, I think. Anyway, so there aren't too many reasons to keep your Wii U anymore. Basically, I'm not sure what's left at this point. I think there are a couple of Star Fox games that haven't made the jump to Switch yet that I think are still stuck on the Wii U. Otherwise, yeah, I can't think of anything else that's still there. All right, anyway, Xenoblade Chronicles X coming April, I think, of next year. I'm just gonna skip to the end. Release date? March. 20th of March. Next year. Okay, so last thing we're going to look at before we get to the Epic Game stuff. So, Moida Mansion is this new game from Lucas Pope. Lucas Pope, if you're not familiar with the name, you might be familiar with the games that he's made. Papers, Please, Return of the Obra Dinn. Those are both him. And he has launched a completely free game that you can play in your browser. This link is in this article, and I will have the link available in the paste bin as well. So kind of the gist of Moida Mansion, it's, oh no, the Adventure Club's official mascot turtle has carelessly wandered into Moida Mansion. Her friends went after her and got trapped. They broke the golden rule of the Adventure Club. Stay out of Moida Mansion. Now it's up to you. Sneak in and rescue them before it's too late. So it is presented as like a very old school LCD game. And people of a certain age and a certain vintage might know what these kind of games are. But this is how we used to play games before in the Game Boys, essentially. Or handheld games, at least. So LCD games, basically all the art is there on the screen all at once, and they just toggle it on and off, depending on what needs to be in the scene. So anyway, that's the game. I'd say it presents probably better on mobile because it would have the correct aspect ratio. Anyway, the gist of it is you make your way around Moida Mansion. You can go left, you go right, you can search, you can go up and downstairs. So in this case, we can only go left, right, or search something. So we can try search the grandfather clock or something. Probably find nothing. Nothing. We never find anything. And now the monster has shown up. So if we try to search something again now, where the monster is, for instance. No, he's found us. We gotta run away from the monster, and so on. And if you stay there long enough, the monster finds you and kills you. It is a very basic game. It's very straightforward, and it's free. And it's a fun presentation. Anyway, moving on. So free games this week over on the Epic Game Store. Ghostwire Tokyo for Halloween. It has been on the Game Store multiple times in the past. In fact, I think it's on PlayStation Plus this month as well. So if you're not familiar, it's a pretty well realized chunk of Tokyo, Shibuya. You are like one of the last remaining people. There's been this giant kidnapping event, essentially, of all the people of Tokyo, and now it's your job to unkidnap them. And then on top of that, there's a pretty cool DLC game called The Spider's Web that came out a good bit after the game launched, and it's pretty good. Some pretty good changes have been made to the core game as well, so it plays a little bit easier, plays a little bit nicer. Which I haven't played. I've only actually seen streams of it, but it seems like a pretty cool. Some pretty cool changes were made for the game. Anyway, let's go as far as Tokyo, and then the other game is Witchit, which is prop hunt effectively, but with like a witchy Halloween vibe to it. But it is essentially like a hide and seek game. Anyway, those are some of the games you can play soon. What if you wanted to play something right now? You can, if you want to, play Dragon Age: The Veilguard, which came out on Halloween, October 31st. So Dragon Age: The Veilguard is set after Dragon Age Inquisition. I haven't been following like the pre-release stuff because I kind of want to go in unspoiled as much as I can. But if you're familiar with how Dragon Age Inquisition ended and how some of its DLC ended and stuff like that, you might have a good idea of how this starts. Reviews have been kind of a bit strange. For the most part, people seem to be pretty happy with it. Pretty happy with its combat and that kind of thing. There have been some talk about it being a bit, the dialogue not being great. Dragon Age dialogue has never really been great, I would posit, but whatever. It's not going to be Baldur's Gate, let's put it that way. Anyway. Alright, I know. I might keep looking at this, otherwise I'm going to want to play it. I'm going to move on. I don't have the time. Anyway, then there's Redacted, which is in fact the name of the game. So Redacted is actually a sequel to Callisto Protocol. Or, well, sequel's maybe not the right word. It's set in the same universe, set a little bit before the events of Callisto Protocol. So you are one of the security officers in the prison where Callisto Protocol takes place. So I think it's Saturn? It's like one of Saturn's moons. Anyway, so the gist of it is you're trying to escape the prison before everything goes to shit. And you die a lot because it's a roguelike and it's that kind of thing. So not like Callisto Protocol's very heavy survival horror stuff. This is very much a much faster paced kind of game. And you are expected to die a lot like you are in Callisto Protocol as well. So there's that. Anyway, that's Redacted. I don't think it's like a full premium priced game either. I think it's in the $39.99 area. Devilated is like a boomer shooter from years gone, but it is actually a modern game. I have no idea what the story of this game is. Like, I think you are a devil, and you're killing things because it's fun, more or less. I don't think you need anything beyond that. You can see on the right hand side of the screen though, it does have like a Devil May Cry grading for how good you're doing, how good your killing is going, I suppose, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it seems like a really interesting boomer shooter that's trying to do things that aren't the same as every other boomer shooter. So I guess we'll see how that works out. I haven't seen too many reviews of it yet, so I might have to figure it out for myself. Anyway, that's Devilated. I think that's PC only for now. So some things making a port. Phasmophobia was the streaming darling for a while. Has made its way to consoles, so it's now on PlayStation and Xbox. Again, released on Halloween. And there's also, if you're playing it on PlayStation, you can play it in VR. It's probably one of the few games I don't want to play in VR, but anyway. I'm sure you are familiar with Phasmophobia, but in case you aren't, it is a kind of ghost hunting simulator in some ways. It's you and up to a couple of friends, up to 3 friends, I think, so 4 of you all at once, have various tools to try to discover what's haunting a particular location and then try to figure out what type of ghost it is, all while avoiding being killed by said ghost. And you get better tools as you go on, you get more money, you can pay for better equipment and take on more difficult areas and bigger areas and stuff like that. Anyway, usually those kind of games, it tends to be fun because you're playing with your friends more than the game itself is actually any fun. Anyway, moving on. More ports. Red Dead Redemption and Undead Nightmare are both now on PC. So finally, it has been rescued from console lockdown. And it doesn't appear to be the Red Dead Redemption remaster that came out a while ago. It appears to be like its own thing. And of course, now that it's out on PC, we have of course seen multiple mods and things of people from Red Dead being put into other games and people from other games being put into Red Dead. The obligatory Thomas the Tank Engine reskin of the train that goes around. I forget the name of the state that the fucking Red Dead takes place in. Anyway, moving on. And then last up for ports, Shadow of the... Well, it's not a port, actually. It's a remaster. Shadow of the Damned, hella remastered. There's a remaster of Shadow of the Damned. Was languishing in the PS3, 360 consoles, and never got like a PS4 remaster or anything like that. So now it is on PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox Series, Xbox One, so on and so forth. I don't know if it made its way to Switch. I don't think it did. It is a over-the-shoulder, somewhat, not exactly a survival horror, but I think it's billed that way. It's made by the same developer. No, it isn't. I was going to say it's the same developer of Resident Evil 4. It is absolutely not the same developer of Resident Evil 4. It's the same... I think it's No More Heroes. It's the same guy. Yeah, Suda51. It is. It's the No More Heroes guy. Right, anyway. Yeah, it is very irreverent, dick jokes all over the place. Shinji Mikami is involved. I knew he was involved in some way. Okay, so it does have a bit of Resi 4 somewhere in it. Anyway, it's a bit of an acquired taste, but it's a fun game. I liked it when I played it initially. Anyway. Alright, monthly games. I did the new releases and the monthly games in the wrong order, whatever. Anyway, nobody watches this, who cares? So PlayStation Plus's monthly games, there's been some annoyance that Ghostwire Tokyo has appeared again, because it's like a third or fourth time it's been in the monthly games thing. They're like, there are other games, you know, that you could add. It's not that Ghostwire is not a good game. It is. It's just like, fucking have it already. give me something new. Alright, anyway. Hot Wheels Unleashed Turbocharged is what, you know, is what it sounds like. It's a racing game, but it's with the Hot Wheels toys stuff. Multiplayer, it's got some new locations, it's got some new things, it's got a track editor, it's just interesting. Ghostwire Tokyo, we talked about already as part of the Epic Games thing. Tokyo is overrun by deadly supernatural forces. You know, you don't like that. Want to stop it. And then Death Note Killer Within is actually a brand new game. It is a hidden role type game, so like Among Us or Werewolf or those kind of things. How exactly it plays, I'm not sure. I don't think it's like a full environment kind of thing, like Among Us. I think it's more of a visual novel element to it, which you play multiplayer-wise. Anyway, not sure. Unfortunately, though, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games, the video game industry. So, Concord is gone. That's not really the headline. PlayStation shut down 2 studios it only recently acquired, reportedly leaving over 200 staff in limbo. So, Firewalk Games, or Firewalk Studios, the developer behind Concord, who Sony acquired back in April of last year. So it's been a little more than a year and a half-ish. Since Sony acquired them, the studio is now gone for good. So when Concord came out and then was taken down 2 weeks later, there was a question about what's going to happen to the game and then what was going to happen to the developer behind it. We know now what's happened, which is the studio is gone. Firewalk has been shut down. The game is offline, has been offline since September 6th, and is now essentially gone for good. Allegedly due to low player counts and sales estimates. One would argue you should probably have known that ahead of time. But okay. There is an official post up on Sony's website from Herman Hulst, the co-CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, and we won't get into my opinions on Herman. Anyway, it has taken the decision to permanently sunset Concord and close Firewalk. Yes, permanently said we're firing 200 people whose only mistake was doing what we asked them to do. Okay, anyway. On top of that, there's also a mobile developer, Neon Koi, has also been shuttered. Their unannounced mobile action game will not see the light of day because we don't know what they were working on. It was going to be some mobile title. Sony had been interested in branching out into the mobile space, but turns out, I guess, not anymore. Who knows what they're doing with themselves? Pulse writes that the closures were decided upon as part of ongoing efforts to strengthen Sony's studio businesses. We're going to strengthen our business by closing studios. Okay. We're going to strengthen our business by putting all of our eggs in a smaller basket. Good job. Good job. This is a very different tone that he took like a year ago when they acquired it, and they were like, Firewalk Studios are working on something really impressive, and I think players will be very satisfied with what comes out, yada, 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 and it wasn't. Which is it, Herman? Did your opinion change that quickly in 1 year? Although, interestingly, he was promoted to CEO in between, so was he just saying that because it wasn't his job to acquire Firewalk? Jim Ryan acquired them instead for the live service bullshit? Anyway, according to Bloomberg, it's about 210 jobs that will be affected across Neon Koi and Firewalk. Sony acquired Firewalk in 2023, April 2023. Neon Koi was some stage in 2022. They were originally known as Savage Game Studios. Again, I'm not particularly familiar with them because they're in the mobile game industry and I don't really pay that much attention to it, but still, acquiring a studio, having them work on a game, and then not even letting them talk about it, that means they have got nothing to show for on their resumes or anything like that. It's pretty shitty. Anyway, Herman had more to say about it. It's also pretty glaring that they didn't have anybody from Firewalk contribute to this blog post. It's all just Herman. But anyway, he goes on to say, yada yada, there are risks, yada yada yada. The idea of putting new things into the world is critical to pushing the medium forward, and that's why we took the game away 2 weeks after it was released, and why we're not letting this mobile game come out, and why we're closing those studios and just focusing on the 4 IP that we care about. Putting new things into the world is critical, though. We will take the lessons learned from Concord and continue to advance our live service capabilities. They have not learned a single lesson whatsoever to deliver future growth in this area. You bought Destiny. How's that going? Going well? Anyway, Kotaku estimate that on top of the acquisition of the company and however much was spent on getting Concord out, it cost them around $200 million. It's almost certainly going to be more than that when they do like payout for severance, legal shit, legal mumbo jumbo, what have you. It's going to be considerably more than 200 million, but 200 million is a pretty significant black eye. Anyway, so pretty shit. Pretty shit. You know what else is shit? Dozens of staff laid off at Inflection as part of restructuring. We got that restructuring shit going on again. So Inflection Games are the people behind Nightingale. This is this kind of Victorian No Man's Sky, essentially. Victorian era steampunk No Man's Sky is the only way I can describe it. I think at this point, they have actually stepped back from the procedurally generated stuff and are now having actual crafted worlds. I'm not sure if they've fully pivoted to that yet. I know that was the plan. I don't know if that update has actually gotten out yet or not. But anyway, Inflection Games itself highlights is to say that the industry has been undergoing a period of significant transition. What are we transitioning to? Being even more money hungry, and how it's felt the impact of these broader trends. Okay. Anyway, Nightingale's early access wasn't commercially successful enough to continue development at the studio's current size. So the studio itself isn't shutting down, they are just laying off the UK side of it, basically. Inflection Games is primarily based out of Canada, but they did have a UK studio. I'm not sure what they were working on, but anyway, that studio was gone. And because that studio was shut down, the people who were working with it have also been laid off. So it's about 22 people. After exploring numerous options, we made the difficult decision to restructure our studio to ensure our long-term sustainability. Again, I'm not sure how you do that by having fewer people work on the game. Sadly, this means saying goodbye to a number of incredibly talented and dedicated team members. Yes, how sad. How sad for you that you're saying goodbye to them. Not that they're being laid off in a difficult job climate. That's not sad for them. Anyway, I'm not sure how well Nightingale is actually doing. This kind of thing they're talking about here, how early access wasn't commercially successful enough, kind of goes some way into how I was saying that early access at the beginning used to just be seen as a getting player feedback in early. And it wasn't meant to be seen as an actual launch of the game. It's like the game is still in beta, the game is still in alpha, whatever way you want to look at it. And it has increasingly not... It's increasingly not being seen that way. It is increasingly being seen as launching the game. And I think that is starting to hurt a lot of developers that might be in early access who have been in there for a little bit longer than they maybe expected it to be. And it's also hurting games jumping into early access in the first place because they're expecting, and they may have the wrong expectation, that we're launching it as a beta. This is the early version of the game, right? It's not, this game isn't finished yet. It shouldn't be looked at as finished yet, but it is being looked at that way. And I think that's kind of... There's two issues with it, is that you're going to market the game because you want people to, get in on the early access stuff, and you want to obviously put money into the studio. That's the other reason. So you're going to market it and like hype it up and make it look good and what have you. So that's going to get coverage. And that coverage is going to lead to people critiquing the thing. And the critique should be seen as just that. It's a critique of it. It's not like a critical review yet, because the game's not finished. You don't review something if it isn't finished yet. Right? You're just... Constructive feedback, really, is what you're going for there. But I think it's increasingly not being seen that way. It's increasingly being seen as a soft review of the game. And when people hear that, oh, it's buggy and it's missing features, and yeah, they just step away from it. And you don't get the people who might have bought into the early access that way. It's a difficult dance, I gotta say, marketing something for early access. Anyway, moving on. Something employment. I forget what this one was about. QA devs, right? Call of Duty. That's a different game. Call of Duty QA workers rally against Activision Blizzard return to office mandate. So Activision Blizzard has had this return to office thing since last year at some stage. And QA workers in this particular area have been kind of vocal about how it's, completely unnecessary. We've been able to do our job perfectly fine remotely up until now. What's changed? And Activision are like, nothing's changed. We're just bringing you back to the office because we can. Anyway, quality assurance QA workers have walked out in protest over the publisher's return to office mandate. It's according to Communication Workers of America, which is the union they're underneath. This is in Minnesota, I think. So they rallied to secure work from home accommodations. This particular team has worked on a good number of Call of Duty titles, specifically Black Ops 6. It just came out. And they're claiming that Activision as well as Microsoft have not permitted accommodations for employees with ADA certified medical conditions. So these are people who have gotten medical certifications that say they need to work at home. Having them work on site is detrimental to their health, and that Activision/Microsoft are just not playing ball with that, which is illegal, I think. Anyway, over 300 Activision employees signed a petition earlier this month calling for the return to work from home options. What? Calling for the return of work from home options. Okay, that was weird. Return to work from home. Return of work from home options. They want the work from home shit back, basically. Despite multiple requests from the union representing the video game workers, Activision and Microsoft have been unable to articulate why specifically they are insisting workers must work in the office. This is again coming from CWA, Communication Workers of America. Even those with serious medical conditions and doctors' recommendations to work from home. They haven't been unable to articulate it. It's just if they do articulate it, they know they have no argument. And it's just, fuck you. Get in the office. Anyway. This is again the pro worker group, A Better ABK, which is it's like a worker advocate group for Activision Blizzard King. That this whole return to office mandate was decided on our behalf and without our input, so they didn't talk to the actual employees about getting them back into the office. They just unilaterally said everyone's coming back. This is obviously not unique to Activision, Microsoft, even. It's like great number of companies, even outside of the video game industry, are pushing for it because they know they have more leverage that way, they have more power that way, and they don't want to be spending money on offices and not having people in them, and so on and so forth. It's all politics and has nothing to do with productivity. Productivity was shown to be either the exact same or better, people working from home. So they know they don't have anything there. So they know they can't say that, so they got to come up with some other bullshit. Anyway, Activision Blizzard ended its year-long hybrid work structure at the start of this year. It enacted a full return to office policy that allowed for 0 work from home days. Prior to that, it did have 3-day-a-week hybrid thing. So if your company is trying to push for a 3-day hybrid thing, just keep in mind that that's just opening the door for the full return. That's all it is. Do not let them open the door. Anyway, the workers' union have stated that they believe that these return to office things is just a layoff wolf in return to office sheep's clothing. This has been a pretty common concern for a lot of industry representatives to say, not just industry workers representatives in general, that the whole return to office thing is just a way for them to do soft layoffs. Meaning, well, I'm not fucking going back to the office, so I quit. You know, so it means they don't have to pay severance because they're not laying you off. You're voluntarily quitting. So legally, they have fewer things tying their hands. It's better for the company for you to quit than for them to lay you off, basically. Despite more than 2 years of successfully working from home entirely or in hybrid within office. This is again from CWA, stating that the return to office mandate doesn't make sense because productivity has been perfectly fine or better for 2 years now. And the rest of the article kind of points out that Insomniac Games and Respawn have both said that remote is great and works really well for both of their studios. Point is, they're just being shitheads because they want to be. Anyway, moving on. So the Assassin's Creed Shadows delay necessary to change narrative, in quotes for some reason, of Ubisoft's inconsistency and quality. I don't think it's a narrative, my guy. I think it's a pretty accurately stated, factual stance to take. Anyway, Assassin's Creed boss Mark Alex Cote, I don't know. It's French. Anyway, was talking about their decision to delay Assassin's Creed Shadows just a month before its intended release. So it was a bit of a late in the game delay for Assassin's Creed Shadows. He was at a BAFTA event recently, and he was talking about kind of this stuff. He said, talking about how delaying Shadows amidst such scrutiny of the publisher Ubisoft was obviously a very difficult, potentially not a smart move, but felt it was crucially important for the game, for Ubisoft, at such a pivotal moment in the company. So they have obviously had pretty bad sales recently, or not met sales expectations, we'll say. The stock has dropped significantly, but as we talked about previously, the stock was heavily inflated in the first place. So there's an argument to say the stock price is where it's supposed to be right now. Anyway, the concern was that if they had released Assassin's Creed Shadows when they said they were going to release it, that it would further the narrative that Ubisoft is inconsistent in quality. Which suggested maybe wasn't in the best shape when they were planning to release it. Anyway, Ubisoft's portfolio has faced criticism in recent years for a perceived inconsistency in quality. It's perceived because it's true. We've all seen the crazy bugs. We've all seen it. We've all seen assassins go flying off into the air, and we've all seen the Star Wars thing where they hop on the speeder bike and the speeder bike goes flying straight down into the ground. Anyway, players expect more polish, more innovation, and deeper engagement for the game's re-release. I don't know if they expect it anymore. It'd be nice. I'm not sure they actually expect the polish. Yeah, they should. I mean, because of the prices you're charging, it should be there. But at this point, are we really expecting it? No. We're expecting it to be a broken piece of shit. And I'm expecting it to gouge us on the price. They should demand it. If anything, it should be demand. Players that demand more polish, innovation, and deeper engagement from a game if you're going to be charging me $99.99 for it. Assassin's Creed Shadows represents our opportunity to change that narrative, not just for Assassin's Creed, but I think for Ubisoft as a whole. Well, good luck with that. Guess we'll see. So Assassin's Creed Shadows is the next kind of big blockbuster Assassin's Creed. So they did have Assassin's Creed Mirage in between Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Assassin's Creed Shadows. Mirage was deliberately a smaller game, but it did begin life as a Valhalla expansion. They just wanted to keep fucking going with Valhalla, and it was too big. Game is enormous. It's like 250 hours or something to do everything in it. Insane. Anyway, I would argue that they should have stuck with Mirage as a keep the game that small. It doesn't need to be a now the problem is Mirage didn't sell that well, so Ubisoft higher ups are going to see that and go, well, Assassin's Creed Valhalla sold this much money, and Assassin's Creed Mirage only sold this much money, so we're going to go with the crazy bloated version instead. Hopefully Shadows isn't that bad. Anyway, so after Star Wars Outlaws' underperformance and the company's stock price in recent times and so on, Ubisoft has found itself the subject of speculation for its ongoing corporate independence. There's a question of, should the Guillemot family be in charge anymore? No, they shouldn't. But they do have a controlling stake, and working with Tencent, they could potentially take over the whole thing itself and bring it back into under private ownership. Anyway, Cody said, we also know that in today's market, being amongst the best is just not good enough anymore. Not good enough for who? Not enough for who? To be amongst the best games. It's been a long time since I think an Ubisoft game has been considered the best game of the year or whatever. Rainbow Six Siege maybe, but I don't think that won Game of the Year. I don't even know what the last time it would have been a contender. Anyway, being amongst the best is just not enough. And again, not enough for who? I bet the developers would be pretty happy with it. And the QA team would be pretty happy with it. And the marketing team would be pretty happy with it. Do you just mean C-suite? Is that what you mean? I think that's what you mean. The rest of the article kind of talks about Assassin's Creed Unity. And that was obviously the big black spot for Ubisoft. That's the one with all the memes and the crazy bugs and the guy with the melty face and all of that stuff. And it is potentially, arguably, when their inconsistency in quality narrative started. Certainly when it hit like more of a critical mass, we'll say. But I think like there were plenty of times you're seeing crazy bugs in some Ubisoft games. Anyway, all these years later, the specter of Unity's launch still haunts the brand, it seems, and both Kote and Ubisoft bosses are keen to ensure it is never repeated. It's taken you a while. Assassin's Creed Unity was what, 2014? 2014? Yeah, 2014. It's 10 years later, and now you're only getting around to addressing it. Guys, you're taking a little bit of extra time here. Anyway, Assassin's Creed Shadows is still slated for Valentine's Day next year, February 14th. Anyway, moving on. Thought I had a segue for this, but I can't think of it now. All right, anyway, PlayStation's Wolverine creative director is now leading Xbox's Perfect Dark reboot. So he's jumped game and he's jumped company entirely as well. So creative director Brian Horton was working on Insomniac's upcoming Wolverine game. There's no release date or anything about that. We don't know how long out it is, when did they start development on it, and so on. Not really any idea. Anyway, he has now joined the team working on the Perfect Dark reboot, again as creative director. Perfect Dark did have a gameplay video showing off of whatever Xbox's last big showcase. There's no fucking way that was real. Anyway, he hasn't been part of the PlayStation Marvel project since the summer of this year, so he's been gone a while, and I imagine he took a bit of time off, and then now he's decided to join the team over on Perfect Dark with studios working on Perfect Dark. I know Crystal Dynamics are doing part of it. What's the other studio? Is this in the article? the Initiative. I was trying to remember who that, because I knew Crystal Dynamics were working on it, but Xbox don't own Crystal Dynamics, so I knew they had to have somebody who they actually owned. So it's the Initiative. Anyway, he's being replaced by Marcus Smith, who was originally on Ratchet & Clank, I think. And Mike Daly is taking over as game director. Cameron Christian has been dropped from it. I think they've been moved over to something else. Serving a different role. It's not clear if they're going to be serving on the same game or not. Anyway, Camerson Christine. Okay, it's a strange name. Anyway, according to sources close on the matter, the changes to Wolverine's developments are the result of creative decisions around the game. I mean, there's a creative decision for the guy to just fucking leave. It's just which one happened first. Was the creative decision made and then he went, well, this isn't the game I want to make anymore, I'm out of here? Or was he saying, hey, I want to work on Perfect Dark and this is taking too long, so see you later? And then they started making creative decisions. We don't know. Anyway, he'll be bringing his wealth of experience to the upcoming reboot of the classic Secret Agent series, according to an Xbox representative. So working with Microsoft's The Initiative and Embracer, unfortunately, owned Crystal Dynamics. And it turns out Brian has actually worked there before. He worked on Tomb Raider with Crystal Dynamics. So he's just returning to a team he's done a lot of work with in the past already. So it seems like he would have gone from Tomb Raider and then over to Spider-Man, maybe. And now essentially going back to Crystal Dynamics. So it's not really... He's an Xbox employee, so I guess he's going to the Initiative, but he's working with Crystal Dynamics. It's possible why he was given the job? Why they chose him for the job? I don't know. Because it's not clear if he is just working on the project. Has moved across to Xbox and joined he's joined the team working on Perfect Dark. It doesn't say if he's joined the Initiative or if he's joined Crystal Dynamics. Because it would make sense for him to join Crystal Dynamics if he's already worked with them before. It'd be an easy for him to slot back in. Be an interesting one to check, anyway. Okay, moving on. So Nintendo put out, again, no Switch 2 news, because they're just fucking yanking our chains at this point. But anyway, Nintendo doesn't credit its composers on new Nintendo Music app. So it released a mobile app Friday, I think. No, October 31st, so it must have been Thursday. Or possibly Wednesday when the app came out and then the article was written the day after, I don't know. Anyway, it is essentially Spotify, but just Nintendo music. So it's a bunch of like Nintendo soundtracks, Donkey Kong Country, the Wii channels. It's hilarious. Lots and lots of Nintendo soundtracks. It's pretty cool. Be cooler if it was on, other things that I have subscriptions to that I don't have to keep swapping between apps to listen to music I want to listen to. But anyway, unfortunately, though, the app itself, while it does have dedicated soundtracks and it has some metadata about all of that kind of stuff, it doesn't actually credit any of the composers of that music. All it really talks about is the game it's from, some information about the game, that kind of stuff, like release dates and that sort of thing. But it doesn't tell you anything about the actual composers behind it. So you don't have like Koji Kondo, who worked on Legend of Zelda music. Ryo Nagamutsu, I think, is Metroid. I'm not sure. Sorry, no, Kenji Yamamoto is Metroid. I'm not sure who Ryo's music is. Anyway, the point is, once again, Nintendo not crediting people for their work. Essentially, once again, Nintendo is trying to maintain the illusion that everything they release is created by a monolith, and it's disappointing. So they take the Disney route of things, is that this is made by Disney, not by this list of people, specific people who you might want to follow for their work. No, it's just made by Nintendo. Nintendo makes Mario games, which it does, but it's specific people make those games too. And if they jump ship, you might want to follow them and see what games they make in the future. You follow things like Hideo Kojima, making sure he got his name on top of Metal Gear Solid. It was always a Hideo Kojima game. It builds up a brand for that particular person. But on top of that, it also lets people show their work in resumes, in their CV. If they want to get a job somewhere else, and they can say, "Hey, I worked on this." And if Nintendo's not going to credit them, and they have no real proof beyond just saying I worked on that, if they're not in the credits, you're not in the credits. And that is obviously a problem because Nintendo have done that too, growing reticence to properly credit developers. It was learned that there is, in fact, a crediting policy in Nintendo that deliberately leaves out third-party people out of the credits. It's strangely reluctant to share. Yeah, this has been a weird one, actually, because it's only been like the last 2 years or so, but they've been reluctant to share what studio specifically is developing their games. Like, it took a good while before we knew who was actually developing Princess Peach Showtime, or who's developing Super Mario Brothers Brothership, or whatever it's called, the one that's coming out later. Like, a lot of people didn't know that Monolith Soft made Breath of the Wild. And Monolith Soft are the Xenoblade Chronicles guys. A lot of people didn't know that. Like, it was like Nintendo does partner with a lot of third-party studios. And Monolith Soft's not third-party anymore. They were acquired, but at the time, they were third-party. Like, it does partner with them. And if for some reason it's become very reluctant to actually say that. It isn't until people do, like, metadata dives to find out which developer worked on what, or until the game actually comes out, and then, yes, they are credited then. Anyway, it's just very strange. And it seems like it's policy. Because they're doing the same thing here with the music, they're doing the same thing with the credits for third-party developers. It's not a good look. Anyway, moving on. So, all of these kind of pretty shitty things happening to developers and workers of the video game industry. Well, the IWGB Game Workers launches first manifesto. So this is a UK-based union, and it would be comparable to the CWA, Communication Workers of America. It's obviously not as big. UK and US are significantly different in size. But they have released their first manifesto. It is pretty straightforward. It is fairly basic things. Union recognition is pretty straightforward. All of your employees who have joined the union should be recognized that they have joined the union. And what that basically means is if you need to talk to them about labor issues, you talk to the union. You don't talk to the individual person. Stuff around working hours and overtime. It's like you work the hours that you are contracted to work. There's no fancy, oh yeah, we don't have any overtime. We just crunch the shit out of you. And that voluntary overtime is compensated correctly, which it often is not. A lot of the time it's, yeah, you'll do the overtime now, and then we'll give you like time off in lieu, and then time off in lieu is you're fired. So that's great. Thanks. Introducing a 4-day work week is a difficult one, mostly because a lot of companies say when they have a 4-day work week, what they really mean is 5 days of work crammed into 4 days, which isn't better. It's really not better. What it should be is 4 days of work in 4 days of work. That's what a 4-day work week should mean. But anyway, guaranteed mental health days as part of sick leave. Again, it should be standard, but it's not. Compensation, so making sure pay increases annually so that it can keep up with inflation. Baseline pay goes up for all industry workers because it has not in a very long time. Equitable shares of the studio profits, so the C-suite isn't making all of the money. And the gender pay gap, that's across every industry, should be done. Parental leave, so maternal leave, paternal leave, they should be equal. Residuals and royalties, again, this is a creative work, so you should be getting both of those, and not just C-suite. Improve the pension schemes, because you guys keep fucking laying us off. It really should be something to protect us. Accountability and transparency. C-suite executives should actually be accountable and not just say they're being accountable. I'm taking accountability for this mistake by laying off everybody else except me. Executives should be accountable in events of mergers, acquisitions, studio closure, redundancies, mandatory, yada yada yada. Basically, the people who make the mistakes should actually suffer for those mistakes. Job security, contractual protections, voluntary redundancy, all that kind of stuff. Equity and inclusion, which is mostly, you know, stop fucking bullying and sexually harassing people. Training and education, making sure people do have access to actual learning benefits so they're not being pigeonholed into one area. And make sure there's antitrust training for C-suite executives. That's a good one. All right, anyway. Contractual terms. This is actually mostly to do with the non-compete and the NDA stuff. Anyway, the union has seen a substantial spike in membership from December of last year to December of 2 years ago to December of last year, following continued layoffs and studio closures, and there were even more layoffs and studio closures this year. So I would imagine they've seen a significant spike since then as well. Anyway, last thing we're going to take a look at over on the community side of things. So the community things is meant to be stuff that's happening in the video game community that doesn't necessarily involve the big publishers and developers and stuff. It's meant to be like players, people sort of adjacent to it working on a thing. And that tends to almost always mean mods. I do get that. It's not meant to be just a mod section, but that does tend to be what happens. Anyway, Nexus Mod says folks should be pressuring paid mod platforms to do better if they're frustrated by its new policy on the ever controversial topic, that topic being paid mods. So Nexus Mods put out a update to one of its policies last week on how it views paid mods. And basically it says no to paid mods. It doesn't want to host them, and it's not going to host them. And that has frustrated a bunch of people who obviously want to make money off their mods, off their work. You could argue that they should be allowed to make money off their work. The other argument is they are piggybacking on a product people have already bought, and they are manipulating something that they don't technically have the rights to. And then on top of that, it's that the people behind Nexus Mods, the community behind Nexus Mods, view modding as a passion project and not something that should be for monetary gain. Anyway, that is their stance. They are free to take that stance, but those be mad. Anyway, modding should be a pursuit of passion first and foremost. Any frustrated parties would be better off trying to put more pressure on platforms which do allow and support paid mods to improve their offerings feature-wise. So basically, the pushback on Nexus Mods' policy on not hosting paid mods was that Nexus Mods features, which is like very easy installs, grouping a lot of mods together, like bundling things that will work really well together, or stuff that has dependencies on other mods. There's a lot of really good interoperability between mods with Nexus Mods, and that was the kind of thing they were saying, is that because you're not hosting the paid mods, we don't get that niceness now anymore. Now we have to deal with conflicts and all that kind of shit. And Nexus Mods are saying, yeah, that sucks. Maybe you should talk to the paid mod guys and see what the problem is there. We're not fucking with our we're not hosting stuff that, I guess there's a different way to look at it, is that they don't want to host something where somebody else is making money and they're hosting these mods for free, and then maybe they are supposed to get a cut from it as well, and then it becomes a whole thing. It's just no. Anyway, the Nexus Mods community manager is kind of pointing out that yes, there's a great deal of ire about these changes. People are enjoying the features Nexus Mods currently offers, that are more powerful and convenient than those offered by those paid modding platforms, and we are very flattered by this, but you shouldn't be giving out to us about it. You should be asking the paid platforms to do better and implement the features themselves if they really wanted. So there are some concessions were made, so modders will be allowed to provide patches that simply allow their mods to work alongside a paid mod. So they are going to get some of that nice C interoperability stuff. They can put out a patch that says, hey, if you are using this mod, this paid mod, then you'll need this patch update, basically. The only other concession made to that is that patch that makes it work with the paid mod has to be a separate thing. I don't know about that. That seems like a little bit weird, but whatever. To be clear, we aren't saying that you shouldn't use paid mods. We just want Nexus Mods to be about free modding. That's their deal. If you come to Nexus Mods, every mod that's there, you can get. That's the way they want to view it. Anyway, if you want to go specifically for a paid mod, you'll have to go somewhere that isn't Nexus Mods. Right. We will leave Dragon Age to play in the background. Okay. Anyway, that was your news. 28th of October to the 3rd of November, 2024. I'm quite curious to see what's happening with the Brotherhood. No, the guys from Stasis and Stasis Bone Totem, because I really liked both of those games, and they are also very dark, very grim visions of the future. I don't think there's anything nice happens in either of those games. It's all pretty grim shit. I'm kind of curious where they're going with that, and it's also a different kind of game for them. They have typically done isometric point-and-click stuff before. This is more of a first-person thing. Is it a first-person shooter? That's not clear yet. The item thing the monkey, the ape, is wielding sure seems like a gun, but again, we didn't see them actually use it as a gun, so who knows. Ritual Tides is just a teaser right now, but I do like the Lovecraft, Cthulhu, Eldritch Mythos stuff, and I don't think we get enough of it, because it's cosmic horror in general. I don't think there are enough games that kind of lean into it. Ghost Town, I think we need to see, again with VR, is very difficult to show in a trailer, because you just don't get the 3D presence vibe that you get when you actually have the headset on. So it is always difficult to tell from a trailer if it's going to be interesting or fun or whatever. So I probably just need to watch some gameplay of it, which is also kind of difficult to do because you're still going to be watching it on a 2D screen. You know, you're still not getting the depth of VR. It's a very different thing, and it's something you just can't convey on a TV or on a screen. Anyway, Enigma Fear, I do like. It's, as I said, I liked its art direction, so I kind of want to give that a shot. I think there is a demo now on PC for it, so I'll probably try that out and see how that works. Hopefully the Steam Deck doesn't say no to it. It has been saying no to more things recently, which is not great. Anyway, I don't have a powerful PC to play these games on yet. I'm debating whether or not to just bite the bullet and buy a proper gaming PC at this point. I don't really have the space, is the real issue. I have nowhere to put it, even if I did get one. And I have too much on this particular PC to do a transfer over everything. That would be a pain in the hole. So I kind of would need both. See, if I was going to get a gaming PC, it would have to be just a gaming PC. Like, I wouldn't want it to be a everything. Like, this PC now is an everything PC. Pretty much, it does everything for me. Except gaming, because it's just not strong enough for that, or powerful enough for modern games. So if I was going to get a gaming PC, it would have to be a standalone. This is literally just for games, and the only thing I have installed on it is Steam, pretty much. But then I would need space. I would need space for, like, the 2 gaming towers, which I just don't have right now. Anyway, moving on. Monthly games from PlayStation Plus, not great. Ghostwire Tokyo is good. It's a good game. It's just, it's been on PlayStation Plus multiple times now. And there are so many other games that could be put there, and it just feels kind of cheap from Sony. I'm sure Hot Wheels is fine as a fun little party game racer thing, and the Death Note thing, no idea. It's a brand new game. No idea how it plays. I'm not a huge fan of the hidden role stuff. Don't really like it that much. So it's not for me. It might be for you. I don't know. New releases, Dragon Age: The Veilguard. I do want to play it, but I am like just coming to the end of Baldur's Gate 3. So I'm kind of a little played out on the CRPG right now. And I think I need to do a refresher on what exactly happened to Dragon Age Inquisition, because it's more of a sequel to Inquisition than it is to the other 2 games. And I didn't really like Inquisition all that much, so I don't really remember exactly what happened. So I'll need to check up on that before I jump back into the Dragon Age world. There were some other new games there I'm trying to think of now. Anyway, Shadow of the Damned I'll probably pick up at some point, but probably on sale. I don't think I can stomach the full price for it right now. What kind of other games were there? Oh yeah, Redacted. I mean, I need to actually play the Callisto Protocol first. Devil-Lated, again, I'll probably wait. And Red Dead, I have already played to death. I don't really need to play any more of that. And Phasmophobia requires you to have friends, and I don't really. I have them. So that's the end of that. Anyway, industry bullshit wise, I mean, industry bullshit gonna be bullshit. Sony acquiring a studio only to shut it down when they made exactly what you wanted them to make. They this is like, I did my job perfectly. You're just shitheads. Okay, cool. It's just politics. Jim Ryan left, the live service push. They keep saying they're going for the live service push, but every move they make says the opposite. We're closing more studios. We're taking people away from Bungie. We're not marketing any of the live service stuff, and yet they keep saying live service is really important. So, like, make up your mind. I mean, it's the same Herman Hulse saying, oh yeah, new IP is great and it's critical we put it out there, and yet, when was the last new thing from Sony? It was Concord, and they killed it after 2 weeks. Anyway, Activision being shitty to return to office thing. Whatever about the able-bodied people, the return to office, which I think is wrong, but it's also mostly a politics thing. The ADA certified people, medical reasons, need to work from home. That's extremely shitty not to accommodate them. And I would question if it's actually legal in the first place. But of course, you're then having to deal with, you know, legal costs of going after a Microsoft-backed company. Who has the money for something like that? Anyway, only the union at that point. And even then, I don't think they have that kind of money. They don't have world's richest company. Is it Microsoft at this point? It must be. Anyway, there's some good news about the IWGB manifesto. I don't know how big that studio is. Art Studio, how big that union is. Hopefully it gets bigger. Because there really needs to be some... There needs to be some teeth and some fangs and some bite from the labor side of the video game industry, because they really are just getting shit on the last 3-4 years or so. Post-pandemic, essentially. Well, I mean, they were getting shit on way before that, but it seems to like really have gone into overdrive since then. Anyway, normally this is where I would talk about what's happening on the channel, but nothing really has been. I was all set to do a stream of the Monster Hunter Wilds beta. I had even set up all of the stream data, and I had the title done. I had changed the channel points image to like Monster Hunter stuff. And it came down time to just press go, and no. And it's not even the no, I'm tired. It's the no, I'm tired, but really it's no, I'm tired, asterisk. And then the asterisk is, it's depression, lol. I really do want to get back to it, but it's just every time I think about doing a game stream, I just... That part of the brain says no. And I know that's depression. I've had depression anxiety long enough for me to know that that's all that is. But it's still difficult to deal with it. Anyway, we will, as I say, I will continue to try. Just keep an eye on your notifications, and I would ask that you join the chat. It just makes it easier for me. I don't know. Obviously, if you don't have the time, you don't have the time. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. That's it from me. I'm gonna try and be back Tuesday, something. One of the benefits of the weekly news recap is that it's weekly, so I do kind of have this sensation that I need to do it every week, and that seems to be working-ish. I mean, the time is all over the place. It's meant to be a midday thing, and it's coming up to 7 p.m. here. So I'm obviously not great at sticking to a time, but I am at least doing the stream, so that is something. Anyway, I'm gonna head off. Have a good rest of your day, and possibly see you before the next weekly news recap. All right, have a good one. Bye.